Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Ripple Intent Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kyle McCroskey, and unlike my co-host, John, I will introduce John. John, good morning. Say hello.
Thanks, Kyle. You know, everybody knows me, so, why?
Why?
Hey,
10 minutes into a podcast, someone else starts talking, and we have no idea who that is. It's all good. Don't worry about it. They know who that is.
Hey, man, we're almost a year into this thing, so yeah, everybody knows us, but really, they don't care about us so much. What they want is the guests. So
that's
we can
right.
both fun at each other all day. Let's get on.
So let us do just that. So Ripple Intent, real quick, what are we? We're a nonprofit organization based in Denver, Colorado that hosts breakfast clubs all around the country where people come together to become better people, better teammates, and better leaders through conversations about stuff that we don't always get to talk about. And through those conversations, breakfast clubs, and even our annual symposium, we run across and get the opportunity to meet, converse, and build relationships with some amazing people who are really making a massive impact, and most of them don't even realize the change in the impacts and the influences they have on those around them. So we get them on the podcast and be like, hey, you're doing something really cool. You should talk about it. And they're like, I am? And we're like, yes, you are. And then we come on here and we talk about it, and it really is powerful and inspiring and a lot of fun. So like you said, John, that's what we do, and that's one of the people we're going to talk to today. So I would like to introduce Margarita. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You've been working with us. I think we met probably 5-6 years ago down in Houston and have stayed in touch ever since. So go ahead, please introduce yourself to our folks.
Hello. Thank you for having me today. I'm really flattered, actually, that you have me in this podcast. Yes, I wonder, okay, what do you need to talk to me about? But I see that we are in sync about the things that Ripple Intent is about. I am in Houston. I'm a senior project architect with Paige, and I'm all about people. I'm all about helping, being resourceful and all that. So I'm ready to share my story and ups and downs, that you have and how you kind of work back to get where you feel centered to get things done in the fair way and things like that.
It's awesome. Thanks for being here. So Margarita de Monterrosa, I want to make sure I pronounce that correctly. Where are you from, and how did you get to senior project manager at Paige?
Oh, it's a long story. I'm from El Salvador. I got my bachelor's degree in architecture in El Salvador, and then I landed in Houston because I got a Fulbright scholarship to come get my master's degree in the U.S., right? So eventually I started working for a company, had to go back to El Salvador, experienced some earthquakes over there, and then came back over here and was working for another company, then transitioned to Paige 10 years ago. And throughout my career, I started probably in the PA role back in the year 2000. I'm aging myself now. You see, there's a lot of gray hair. But yes, I really enjoy the technical solving problems and, coordinating projects and getting in touch with people and talk about. So that's how I ended up here. It's also opened an opportunity here to be an architecture practice group leader. So I have a few people that are under my supervision, and I'm their advocate pretty much. So I get to interact with them periodically to guide them through things because, like I said, I'm big about people and helping them feel comfortable. Comfortable. That's probably my
comfortable. So, are we supposed to be comfortable at work?
I'm a hugger. Kyle knows, and Kyle is so told that I hug him and I hear his stomach when I hug him. But I hug him every time I see him. So that tells you I like to give hugs to people, even mentally or actual hugs. But that's the way I like to feel people about everything. I know HR doesn't like me to do that. But
what's a mental hug?
Well, I send positive thoughts to people, and try to make them feel comfortable. If they won't let me hug them, then I try to, soothe them with words and comforting words and things like that.
Have you always been like that, or was that work ethic, that kind of stuff, instilled by your family, or did you just kind of find that in yourself over time?
I think I've been like that since I was little, influence from my parents. My parents were always the ones, Hispanic family, always the ones. You go visit the family and you have to go greet every single person in the room and hug them. And even if you don't know them, whoever it is on the street, they raised me to be respectful and caring and showing all those feelings. So I kind of grew up like that by nature, but yeah, so now I'm more expressive, I guess. The older I get, the less filter I have, so I just go and hug people. Yeah.
That's fair. So somewhere along the way, I imagine the soft skills, the people skills became important. Or you realized they weren't necessarily always accepted or held high. There had to be some sort of moment where you were like, wait a minute.
Yes. Yeah, you're right about that. I've always felt inclined, like I said, to help people, but there was something about being vulnerable that wasn't seen right. It was more perceived as a weakness than as a strength. And so, when you help people, you kind of have to be compassionate and be like that. But some people probably think that having that reaction is something that doesn't show professionalism or things like that. But I've always been drawn to be and treat people that way. Recently, and probably when I met you, Kyle, we were kicking. It was probably all the stars and the planets were aligned because it was just like a really, really kick butt team where everybody was so integrated, contractor, owner, all the consultants, the architecture team, everybody was so in sync. But all this was happening in the middle of COVID, so I don't know if the pandemic was something that kind of brought us even closer and willing to abide by that were said. Like we were following lean procedures, right? And everybody turned to have that lean mindset, which is based on respect for people. Lean and kicking off the project with a ripple intent session was like, is this really happening? I have to pinch myself because it was just incredible to see it, but then to actually see the project happen and to things be done the way we said we would do it till the end, that was the really valuable aspect that we were able to achieve to that, just basing ourselves on a principle of respect. So that hit home very close because that's the way I was raised, and I'm very, I'm the one. Well, in Spanish, you're when you talk to your adult people or older siblings, there's two ways of addressing them. So there's a respectful one and there's the more familiar one. I was always used the respectful one because that's simply the way I was raised. But yes, it was really amazing to be able to see that happen, and it's the best project pretty much that I've worked on, and I wonder if it can be replicated. I don't know if it could be fully replicated, but I was determined after that to bring the best and bring bring some sort of safety to the room for the people who are working on, so they can actually have an experience that's close to what we had during that case. So that's when my missions. I really found a lot of myself. I really organized by being able to connect with other people that share the same mentality and approach about humans, and being able to use that for teams and ways to better work together, which is kind of the motto of Ripple Intent. So it was really, really amazing for me to discover that and to be able to see that I had found a team with a culture where I could bring my whole self in. And when I did that, I felt at home, even though I was in my work environment. I didn't have to be like two persons, one at the house and one here. I could be myself wherever, goofy, silly, clumsy, or maybe resourceful, and maybe like a grandma or like the mama bear too, because I had to raise my voice sometimes, but it was just for the best of the project. But all those things happened, and I felt like I was there, and And when you find that, I feel that when you come to work, you feel like more like you're coming to play, because you find that you enjoy what you're doing, and it feels different, and the way you treat people is different, and it's like a family.
I'm fascinated, Margarita, because I want to be on that team. That experience you describe sounds amazing. So you were able to show up as your whole self. You're talking about connection, right? How everyone's tied together. What did you actually do to create that environment? How did this actually work?
I feel that I can sort of read people. I can get hints from when I probably see that someone is not comfortable, and I try to reach out to the person when I see that, just to learn about what the situation is and what's making them feel the way they may be feeling. There's a lot of other things that are more technical, being able to keep everybody on board when they join a project on where they're learning something. I just don't like them to be just thrown in and hey, go see what you have to do and figure it out. No, I think that's probably why when I've been in projects, they come to me to ask questions all the time, because I'm willing to show them the way, and I'm willing to hold their hand for a little bit if needed, to take them to where they need to be. And they really appreciate it, because it may be something that's very easy for me to do, but for them to find someone and to feel comfortable with that person, to ask for help and to get the help that they need to whatever they need to execute, that's very valuable. And I think that's how I've earned the trust from a lot of people, because they feel that they can come to me, and I'm not going to be judging them. And I tell them, I work with a lot of young professionals, and I tell them that there's no stupid question. The only one that's stupid, like a teacher, the only stupid question is the one that doesn't get asked. So come to me, tell me whatever. I'd rather you tell me what you're doing than you messing up something, and then we have to take down the project for however many hours and however many people. Let's just be proactive about it, but don't be afraid to ask the questions either. So there's a lot of layers in that approach, right? But mainly to make them feel comfortable and safe to be able to ask whatever question of whatever kind they have. And I've been asked multiple questions about different kinds of things.
Okay, so you contributed to the culture of that project since that. So this is a really big project that was multiple years, and you all worked very close together for a long time, built those relationships. Since that project ended, how have you been able to, or have you seen differences in other projects that you've moved on to? Because you have grown, you have changed, because that experience carries now with you, and it will always influence who you are. It'll reinforce how you demonstrate and show respect through your behavior and relationships with others. So how has that rippled into the other projects that you have now gone into? Or where have you seen challenges?
I think that's when you have to get your gear right and be determined to make things happen, because definitely that was, I am afraid to say that it was once in a lifetime kind of project. I wish it could be replicated, but there were so many conditions that align at the moment. So, but what happens? What's the chapter after that? I was working on another very large project with a very large team, and where lean is to be the guide very different, because I feel not all the main parties of that team were on board with it. And they talk about the true lean and the lean. So maybe it was such a fast-paced project and so many people, and it was probably there weren't those like in the project previous, we had the person who was the face of the project and leading and all that, but there were other of us who were behind the scenes, kind of holding everything together to making that thing. It was a team effort. It was really a team effort. Everybody was contributing. In this case, the most recent project, we had people who responsibility, and my calling. That's what I like to call it. My calling was to at least keep the people that were working with me directly, to keep them in that safe environment, because it was a complicated project, and we didn't have time to be making it more complex than it was, right? So giving them the space to ask the questions, giving them portions of the project that they could own, gave them a lot of meat when they were completing parts of it, and having that responsibility, even if they were young professionals, they were able to be felt included, respected. They had a voice. They participated in a lot of meetings. They knew about the project. So that's the way I try to kind of bring that environment to them, so they could feel that they were in some way experiencing a fraction of probably what I had experienced on the previous project. But I think it worked, because you could see them. We were stressed out and pushing on that week right before putting the sets together, but we were still laughing and being goofy and trying to stay in a mental environment where you're not going into like a crazy and angry mode, or where people don't want to talk to you because you become unapproachable because you're too stressed out. There was stress, but we try to handle it in a different way. So it was about creating all that environment to make it and hug.
Absolutely. I love it. Because there are, like you said, a once in a lifetime. There's a lot of people who experience that once in a lifetime project where it's like, man, it was just so awesome. Everybody clicked. Everybody was on board. We knocked it out of the park. Whatever we were tasked to do, we did it, and it was fun. And we worked hard for sure, and yeah, there were fights, and we argued, and but we argued about the right stuff, and then they go on to other things, and they go, oh, it's so nostalgic. I miss that, and this one doesn't have it, and we have, I just don't know what's different, but this one doesn't have it, and then you go to the next one, and you keep carrying that with you, like, oh, I can't do it, or whatever reason, this one. But what you're saying is you can bring pieces, even if it quote unquote doesn't have it, because none of them naturally start that way. I think if you do go back to that first one, there was a lot of effort that went into setting up the team before actually doing the work. It wasn't, let's just figure this out as we go. It was, let's actually spend some time. So when you get into other projects or groups or efforts or whatever the tasks are where you haven't been a part of, or the group hasn't had that time, what would you recommend would be a few things that people could try to do to at least bring pieces and parts of those really good things?
Definitely keep the communication line open, because I think when there's not a communication line, a lot of things can break and a lot of things can be misinterpreted and can go wrong. So staying available to answer any kind of questions and to solve together problems is one of the things. Making people feel included is also a thing that's I know it sounds very, very broad right now the way I'm saying it, but making them participate in meetings, making them own a portion of the project so they feel like they have a responsibility, they have a cause for that project. It's not just picking up red lines. I mean, nobody is going to feel challenged with that. I mean, they need to learn of the experience, and you can't be postponing that learning experience for them. If you take the time and caring is one thing, and care about them learning throughout the process, I think that's where you get a lot of results, positive results in people. So showing care and showing inclusion and having them be part of it, having everyone, I think it's an important thing. It's a way to gain the trust. And if you have the trust, the 5 deficiencies of a team. If there's no trust, there's no commitment, and the things go on, right? But trust has to be a very, very strong foundation, and if you build it, you see the results in people.
How do you show care for other people? I know it sounds like a really, really stupid question, but it's just such a, I can show care at Thanksgiving with my family. I can show it in the evening with my wife. I can show it, but I don't necessarily see the clear connection of how you show that you care for people where you work. Besides, like, hey, how are you feeling today? You should take a break. Make sure you get some rest. Okay, check box. I did my wellness thing. I mean, I'm being a little sarcastic, but at the same time, this is like, maybe I care for somebody who I've got like a friendship to work with at work, but in actually doing the work, how do you show and demonstrate care while you're actually doing the work and not make it a byproduct or a secondary thing?
I'm going to say 2 words that will probably resonate with you. Powerful conversations. That's 2 words. Taking the time, like you said, it's not just transactional conversations. It's something when you do talk to people and get to learn more about them, it makes them that you're taking them to a different level of relation. And I'm not the kind that will just go say hi, hello. I'm going to be spending all this time with them. I want to know, and if they're not feeling well, I will understand if the child is sick or if the pet is sick. Understanding all those things, having some consciousness and awareness about what other people have to go through. You never know what the other person is going through, so you can't just judge them because they have a grumpy face on that day. You don't know what's in their mind. So being able to connect with them is very important. And that's my way of caring, because I get to know them better, and I get to understand better where they can excel in the project. If certain characteristics of them may be able to make them thrive in one area of the project and not the other. I can't be specific to that right now, but that's something. And the other one is being available for them for whenever they need help. It's exhausting. I'm not going to deny that. There are days when I go home and I have to take a nap before I make dinner, because it's not the physical, but the emotional and the mental wear that you go through, because you're constantly thinking and kind of processing information to give people or reading people. Just reading people, I can catch hints of when someone is not feeling comfortable sometimes. So I try to react quickly to be able to help them, and because they're part of the family. I know some people don't agree a lot about your work. Your colleagues are not your family, but I've making really, really, really good friends. I think it gives you more energy. It pushes you to go the extra mile, because you're not just doing it for a great cause on a project, but also you're doing it with your friends, and you want everybody to excel, right, and for everybody to have a great output once you complete something, a stage or a big milestone on a project.
So this obviously is natural for you, right? This is how you want to operate. This comes out for you automatically, and this is amazing. I hear the mama bear.
That's the angry one.
That's the angry one.
That's the mean one.
All right, yikes.
The mother goose is the one that's very gentle.
Oh, this is the mother goose. All right, I'll get my nickname straight. So what's the impact that you've seen on your team members after the Margarita experience?
There's a lot of friendships developed. I hear about a lot of stories about families, and without me asking, I get people approach me and say, hey, it was the birthday of my daughter this weekend. Look what I did for her. And they show me pictures and all that. But I also see them valued and ready to tackle the next challenge. Preach that knowledge is power. So the more you get involved to, take on whatever comes. Even if you're not fully prepared for it, if you research, if you do your homework and find that knowledge, you'll be able to survive. So giving them the tools to be able to figure out that, I think, is what helps them at this point. Because they'll be, in a way, trained to be able to take on anything that comes later. And for the group, in the architecture practice, I've had them take the Clifton Strengths assessment, because it requires a lot of self-awareness. There will always be complicated people in the teams, right? But I've learned to see them not as complicated, but more as them having different strengths, and you just need to approach them in a different manner. So if you follow that manual, if you want to call it that, you can figure out a way to get to them and get the information that you need and the results that you want, right? So self-awareness for them, and getting tools for them to know, okay, I can result this at this scale, I can replicate this at a higher scale as long as I do this and that, So that's kind of what I've been been trying to have them do, because taking ownership of pieces is also important, because it exposes them to conversations with consultants and team members, designers, people who are doing construction administration and all that. It exposes them to lose that fear of talking to people and having conversations, because at the end, if you know your stuff, you shouldn't be afraid to talk to people about something. You have the power to be able to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, so you just said a lot of scary stuff to half the people, I think, in the working world. Well, what I hear and what I've seen with you, Margarita, which is absolutely amazing, is that what you're not doing is professing and setting the expectation that people need to do these things. What you're recognizing is people don't do these natural, and like John, you pointed out, Margarita, you do them naturally, and so when you bring those to a team, people feel like, oh, I can participate in that. Or I feel like I'm connected. Or we're not saying, oh, we're going to set a goal to be friends at the end of this project. You're just like, no, I see a bunch of people here who have kids and lives and excitements and ups and downs, and we should feel okay to talk about those when we need to talk about those, because that's what people do. And other people are like, well, we don't do that at work. And you're like, well, yeah, we actually kind of do. And you've done it in a way that make people feel very comfortable and feel very close. And you build those relationships and strengthen them so that when it does get difficult, they're able to lean on all of those relationships as opposed to go into the corner and protect themselves.
Yes. I think you have a very good point there. Things, when I first started, when I interviewed here on Page, my son was 7 years old. And I'm like, I knew I'm going to have to skip work someday because he's sick, and so I asked, am I going to be able to work from home if I have to take care of my son? And then the answer I got was, Margarita, life happens. And that's when I say, okay, where do I sign? I'm in. Because, it's true. I mean, everybody at a certain point had to go through that, and we can't see it as a barrier. And I think COVID brought an extra layer of reality to this, where we have families, and this working from home can be a thing that can happen. It's a matter of trust, not a matter of being micromanaging people and all those things. It can have results, and it probably can have better results for some people than other. Yes, life happens, and when someone sees that that they have a life beyond the walls of this office, and that they have things to take care of, and that you give them the opportunity to handle that, I think that clicks in a different way, because you're opening the next level in the game. It's that they see you trust them, and that you, and everything can be made up. I mean, if you have to be up, there's that relationship where you're not like monitoring them constantly. It's a lot of trust, I think.
Yeah, right. There are a lot of leaders who just aren't interested in connecting, or afraid to connect, maybe a better way to say it, because I've got to hold these people accountable. I got to make sure that the results happen. I might have to fire or discipline someone, and so connecting gets scary. But one of the things I heard that I don't think many people realize, so you're showing up with this care, and you're helping them. You're a great example in terms of, hey, here's how you can be as a caring leader, and you're teaching them how to care and then how to share it. So it's sort of that generational component that you're training a whole group of caring designers who can then go out and impact the teams around them. I mean, this is an amazing ripple that you are intentionally or maybe unintentionally creating, which is fascinating.
And I see that maybe it's personality, and strengths and all that, but I think people, if they genuinely understand the effect that can have in so many ways, I think people can also train themselves to be able to execute that. You don't have to be just rely, I don't have that kind of personality, and just say I can't do it. I think it is possible, and it is possible. So it may require more awareness. It may require a lot more ripple intense sessions, but if there's a will, there's a way. I think they could possibly have something like that happen. And especially to see the results on other people, you can probably, maybe we don't have to twist the arm of that person that much, because you have to have the conviction, that it works. And if you have a conviction, then you'll have the motivation to be able to do something like that. It's interesting that you mentioned it, because when for this last project, our team was sitting in the middle of all the designers. And there's this thing where designers and PAs just don't talk. They only have to talk for whatever it is for the project. But I guess they saw that how approachable the team was, that there was this always groups getting together and talking and asking things here, that there were no barriers, there were no taboos about, I can't talk to them because they're too busy, or here or that. No, there's you have such a flat relation, not flat, but and everything is so, there's no like strata there. We're like, I'm up here, you're down there. No, we're all here together. We're all here at the front of the line and the trenches doing all this, and I'm going to be there with you till the last moment. And that's the way it was. We were putting a set together, and it was a lot of us till the last minute working on something. I wasn't just like having my margarita at the restaurant at 5 p.m. already when everybody else was working. No, you have to be there with them and show them by example. I think the example shows a lot, and when they see the ripple you create by giving the example, they probably feel replicating that in other instances.
Oh yeah, some will emulate, some will participate, and some will just want to be closer and more often around when you're doing it. And so every single one of those is a super positive impact. That's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out this morning to chat with John and I. We really do appreciate it. If anybody else out there would like to learn more about Ripple Intent, head over to our website, rippleintent.org. You can find John, I, and Ripple Intent on LinkedIn. Sign up for our newsletter, all the fun things. Stay in touch with us. And until next time, when we see you on the next podcast, take care, everybody. Thank you again, Margarita.
Thank you.